Hello, how are you today? Welcome to another lesson with Ready for Cambridge. In our lesson today, we will learn a super easy way to make questions in English. We will use the magic helpers that are the auxiliary verbs and a super fun strategy called the magic high five. So, ready to build perfect questions? Let's start. Everybody knows how important questions are in English, be it for an official examination like Cambridge or Pearson or any other worldwide recognized qualification. We need to ask for information. But firstly, we need to build questions for our everyday life, simply to show curiosity, to show interest, to find information, to clarify doubts. We need to ask questions. So, now we're going to see the auxiliary verbs, those helpers that help us build questions. And you'll see how small they are, but how important and powerful these helpers are, because they help us build not only questions, they help us build negative sentences as well. And you will see that in all the examples I'm going to give you right now, they are before this subject. They are before the word that shows who does the action. Let's look at them. First, we've got do and does. These are the present simple forms of the verb to do, and they, of course, help us build questions in present simple to find information about people's routine, about everyday actions. For example, what do you do in the morning? Where do you study? Let's move on. Here we've got the past simple of the verb to do, that is did, and this one is used to ask questions about actions that happened at a specific time in the past. For example, where did you study English? Or how did you go to work yesterday? Let's move on and see the following auxiliary verbs that are am, is, and are. These are the present simple forms of the verb to be, and they help us to build questions in present continuous to show actions that are happening right now, that are happening this week, or that are happening this month. In progress. And not only this, these three helpers, am, is, and are, help us to talk about future plans with the expression going to. For example, what are you doing right now? Where are you staying this week? Or what are you going to do next year? And here are the past forms of the verb to be that are was and where. These helpers are make questions in past continuous. Questions about what was happening at a specific time in the past, or what was happening, or what actions were in progress in the past. For example, what were you doing when it started to rain? Or where were you going when I saw you? Let's move on and see our last helper, last auxiliary verb, that is the future form of the verb to be, that is will. And of course, it helps us build questions about future actions like, how will you go to London next week? Or will you call me later? Well, these are the auxiliary verbs, and you see how important they are. They're really powerful. But the question is, how to remember the order of words in a question. It's so strict and we can't play with this order. And for this, we've got the magic high five. Let me introduce it to you. You know what? I have almost forgotten to show you two more auxiliary verbs. I mean, two more helpers. Oh my God. And they are guess, have, and has. They are the present simple forms of the verb to have. And these helpers, have and has, help us build questions in present perfect tense. This is a tense that shows our past experiences, but with a certain kind of result in the present moment. Actions that we have done in the past, we are proud of right now, or maybe not as proud as we would like to. For example, have you ever been to London? Has she read Harry Potter? Or how long have you known each other? Questions like this. In none of these questions, I have mentioned when it happened because this is not important. What matters is what we have done. All right, and now, as I promised, I'm going to introduce to you the magic high five. Well, here we are with our magic high five. Look at the structure and the order of words in our question. Our thumb is the question word. Our index finger is the auxiliary verb, I mean the helper. Then the middle finger is the subject. Our ring finger is the main verb, the verb itself, and the little finger is all the extra information that we want to add to our question. For example, let's say, what do you like doing at the weekend? Who are you inviting to your party? Now, we've got yes no questions. I mean, questions that don't start with any question word. We don't ask for details. We just want a yes no answer. In this case, what do? We skip the thumb and we start with the auxiliary verb, the subject, the main verb, and all the other information. For example, remember, no thumb here, no question word. So, are you having lunch now? Do you play football? Did they visit London? Have you been to London? And will you help me if I need it one day? Well, this is your guide. Follow the fingers. Remember, our auxiliary, I mean, our magic helpers, and this magic high five. They will help us no longer make mistakes. In a second, I'm going to show you what kind of mistakes we normally make. Just remember one more time, follow this guide. First, select the question word, any of these, what, who, when, where, why, how, and then choose the auxiliary verb, do, does, or did, was, where, am, is, are, will, have, or has. Place the subject you are talking about and then use the main verb. Remember, if we use the auxiliary verb, do, does, did, or will, we're going to use fly, the infinitive. If we are using the auxiliary verbs am, is, are, was, or were, that are the forms of the verb to be in present and past, the main verb is going to have the ending ing, like flying. And if we use the auxiliary verbs have or has, we're going to use the third form of the verb, like flown. Or if the verb is regular, we're going to say started or played. All right. And then we've got all the rest of the information. Just add any other information you need, for example, at home, to work, on holidays, anything else. Remember this guide. Remember the magic high five. All right, now, what mistakes we normally make, and this magic high five is going to help us no longer make these mistakes. Take a look. I will not repeat I'm not going to read okay, the incorrect sentences. Just look at the first incorrect question, and we should say, when will you come tomorrow? I'm not repeating because I don't want you to remember this wrong sentence, this wrong question, okay? Look at the second one. It should be, what are you doing right now? Look at the third one. We need it to be this way. Why do you leave early every day? Look at this past simple question. The auxiliary is did, right? So, did they finish the project? And the last one, it's a present perfect. And the correct question should be, has. You see, has she read War and Peace? Auxiliary verbs, as I said earlier, come before the subject. Will you? Are you? Do you? Did they? Has she? That's the order of a question. Remember this magic high five. All right, it's going to help you. Good. Now, what we're going to do is see the magic high five in action. Ready? First, we're going to look at the auxiliary verb, I mean the present and past forms of the verb to be. Here they are in yellow. These auxiliary verbs help us build questions about present and past continuous actions. I mean actions in progress, now and in the past. For example, what are you doing right now? Why is your friend feeling angry? What are you going to do tomorrow? Where was he going yesterday? And why were they waiting for you at the bus stop? You see, that's the high five in action. Let's move on. Here we've got two questions in which the auxiliary verb is, are the forms of the verb have in present. That's why we call it present perfect. So we use them to ask questions about experiences and results. For example, how long have you been friends? How many books has he read in English? And again, our high five in action. And then we've got the forms of the verb to do, again, as the helpers, do, does, or did, to talk about our routine or about finished past actions at a specific time. For instance, what do you like doing in your free time? How does she travel to work? Why did you go to London last year? And we've got our last auxiliary verb, last helper, that is will, that is used to ask questions about future actions. And again, our magic high five, that is, when will you visit me? So follow this structure. Well, great job. Remember, use correctly the auxiliary verbs. Use our magic high five to build questions step by step. At first, it's gonna make you think, yeah, of your own fingers, like question word, auxiliary, the subject, and the verb, and then the rest of the information. By little, so you will slowly control the structure of questions. Just keep practicing by writing questions on paper or even prepare your own cardboard or paper hand. Well, if you need more practice, more details, more information about building questions, or you are a teacher teaching levels like A2, for instance, Cambridge Flyers, there is an article I've got for you. Take a look, and here you'll find everything. I mean, there is everything for everybody in terms of building questions. Just check it out. It's called Building Time. Building what? Let's build questions. So, that's all for today's lesson. We've worked a lot, and thanks for your time, and thanks for paying attention to how to build questions. And I just hope we will no longer make so many mistakes with the order of words in a question. Stay curious and stay tuned for more words of advice and handy material. See you next time. Bye.